This Halloween, give them a chill. Come to Party City and dress to thrill.
This is Thriller.
Right now, kids' costumes from $9.99. Adult costumes from $19.99. Plus, turn your home into a house of horrors. Party City. Nobody has more Halloween for less.
Good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time zone it may be, everyone. I'm Logan, and today we are doing another episode of Triple Terror, Party City Edition. Now, before we begin, I'm going to address probably how crappy I sound. I never know how I sound ahead of time. If I sound too just blech, it is because I am just battling my allergies, tooth and nail. I have absolutely horrible seasonal allergies, like the worst, and there is a super high pollen count today, and that affects me the worst. So if I start sniffling, I'm sorry. I like to get you guys daily content right now because I have a lot to film. Also, tomorrow there will be no video. I will be in Illinois on a very special trip. You guys might see a special vlog after, a couple days after. That's circumstantial. I had to talk to the people I'm visiting. That will be a very huge video. I have never done a vlog. Oh, I have, but not in a very long time. And this is major content, guys. We're talking exclusive footage with a company. So, stay tuned for that. I cannot make any promises, but fingers crossed. I just have to get permission, obviously. But that is hopefully in the works. But the 27th, I will be gone in Illinois, kicking it. So, today we are covering more of Party City, and today's Party City props are the Contaminated Kid, Embers, and Art the Clown. All three are pretty solid animatronics. I've really been wanting to cover Art the Clown for a while, so I'm excited to finally have this. I choose my props by random. By the way, I have a picker wheel, so it picks them randomly. So, we are going to jump right into it and discuss Contaminated Kid. Yes. So, let me pull him up really quick. So, alright, Contaminated Kid. So this one is by Techie Design, and is similar to some props we've seen before, you know, kind of like Cerberus and Sewer Varmint. But for one, it is bigger than both of them, standing at 4 feet tall. So it's got some size to it, which is very pleasing. And it is a full-bodied animal, which is pretty rare to see. And the fogging gag, because it does fog, is pretty unique how they pulled it off, where one of the goat heads has it coming out of the nostrils and the other one has it coming out of the mouth, which I think is super cool that they did it like that. It does rotate, you know, kind of like we've seen with Cerberus and Sewer Varmint. But, you know, I will let that pass because it does still have some really cool, unique aspects to it. For one, I do love how just compact it is. It's techie, so of course it's built really, really well. It's solid plastic, so it's not latex, which I believe parts of Varmint might have. No, I don't think Varmint was latex. I think it was plastic too. I know Cerberus was plastic, but Cerberus was not as great. I do like that, again, this is probably our tallest animal character that we've gotten. And it is very reminiscent of like an urban legend type prop. I feel like I would have seen this in like those little monster books, if you guys know what I'm talking about. So super cool there. The audio is pretty cool. It's just, goat noises and like creepy ambient audio. I really like the sculpts. The sculpts are super well done. As always, it's techie, so they do some really dope sculpting every time. I love how they do their sculpts. They look pretty realistic. I'm glad they did goat eyes. I feel like some companies would have just done like plain white eyes, because that's kind of a default thing. Techie did actual goat eyes. Kudos to you guys. I also like that they have the little goat beards. I think it's kind of funny, but it's also like, true to the character. I also like their tattered red bandanas. I thought that was really cool as well. There's a lot that I really do like about them. I think they are pretty neat. One thing I don't totally love is the price point. These guys are $275, though I do understand because it is a pretty, solid unit. And from my understanding as well, the box on this thing is huge. Because this thing is pickup only. You cannot get this shipped like Embers and Rattles and Cthulhu. I forgot to mention that too. Cthulhu Watcher, his box, he can also not be shipped to you. His box is freaking massive. So, really curious to see how big this guy's box will be, and if it's one of those where it would be more worth it to just leave it in one piece. I like the kind of creepy cloth illusion that they did with it that kind of makes it look like its body. I thought that was really clever. The kind of black and white fabric. It looks kind of like diseased skin almost. And they shaped it to kind of look like, the body, which I thought was really cool. I like this. It does look kind of diseased. It looks super gross. I mean, the faces are literally rotting. It's like they have mange almost, but I guess they do still have their fur on their neck. I don't know. It's really cool. It would be a really neat freak show edition, something like that. Do I see myself getting it? Probably. I don't know. If my store gets them and they hit sale, yeah, I'd probably get them. My store's getting 3. My store's not getting a lot of stuff this year, which is a bummer. But I do see myself realistically, getting the Contaminated Kid. I also do like the name Contaminated Kid. It does have a kind of a cool ring to it. I do also just, in general, like the overall kind of dark aesthetic to it. This seems like it came straight out of hell. It does seem a little satanic and demonic to me. That's not a bad thing, by the way. I don't really care about, stuff like that. I actually have, demons and shit in my haunt. So I think it's cool. I like stuff like that. I like saying stuff like that. It kind of pushes some boundaries. So that's kind of the vibes it gives me. I like just the overall kind of dark monochromatic colors it has with the little splashes of red. I think it does really make it pop, and then obviously with the red lights coming out of the nostrils and the mouth. And again, I thought that was really smart too. The sculpts aren't identical, which I think gives this a little more interest. You have props like Cerberus, and I think Varmint as well, that the sculpts are basically carbon copies of each other. So they basically went the extra mile and did 2 unique goat heads. And they're they have different expressions and everything, and they basically just combined them together, which I think really shows how detail-oriented Techie is as a company, and I'm really happy about that. It is also cool that the whole body does have fur texturing sculpted into it. The other thing I don't love is it's not all painted. So if that fabric were to blow off or something, it does kind of show. So I think that's really my only downside, like my only like criticism. I would have gone all the way with the paint job, but that's just me, honestly. I still think that this is a relatively like perfect looking prop. I think it's super cool. This is also like pretty old school looking to me. This is something I felt like we would have seen in Spirit like 10 years ago, probably. So, yeah, I like Contaminated Kid. I think it's super cool. I see myself probably getting it to go with the circus because it would be a really neat freak show. Because I want Varmint too to go in the freak show. So, yeah, let's roll his demo.
Alrighty, a little bit of a jump from our last segment where I sounded so terrible. Had to wait a couple of days to finish. I hope I sound so much better, guys. So now we are talking about Embers. So Embers is by Seasons USA, a company that I really don't get to talk a lot about. Embers is the best friend and companion of Rattles that comes from Odette. So Embers is the newest addition to the giant skeletal Groundbreaker series that Party City pretty much spearheaded. And I gotta say, I do really like Embers more than Rattles. Now, of course, I'm not going to get Embers. I just don't have the ground real estate for him. And he really wouldn't fit in my pumpkin patch because it's such a small segment of my haunt. But I will say, love him. So, for one, I love the kind of cutesy, whimsical, almost Tim Burton-esque face that he has. It is super cute. It is super fun. It definitely hits the more fun side of Halloween, which I personally do really like to see get represented. And then on top of that, he has this really cool kind of flame paint job in his face and in his ribs. I'm glad you guys painted the ribs. And he lights up and is also black light responsive or reflective, however you want to word that. He's UV reactive, there we go. Which means that the colors will pop, it will look super awesome. This will be such a nice centerpiece in your haunted house display or your Halloween display, really whatever you do. And again, it does really hit the more kid-friendly approach, more so than Rattles does. You know, Rattles really isn't that scary either, but I like this one more. And I really love how much those colors pop. They're neon, they're really out there. They look so nice. And even if you don't want to, say, have them, you know, blacklight reactive, you can still have them light up. I do believe his ribs also do light up as well, like they have a light in them. It's what it kind of looked like when they were showcasing it in the official Party City video, which is why I have it playing back here, because they give you a much better look. Now, Rattles is smaller than, or not Rattles, Embers is smaller than Rattles at 4 feet, I believe. Let me take a quick look here. Rattles was, sorry, I'm looking here so I can have a good reference for the height. Rattles was 5'3", so he's a little more than a foot shorter. But with him being a foot shorter means he is cheaper at $219. I believe he was $230 originally, and then they actually dropped him even lower, which is great because also Rattles, I'm not doing an independent video on him, but Rattles did also drop in price this year at being only $300 instead of, I believe, $400. I know in select locations like mine, he was also $500. So glad to see him come back and with a cheaper price as well. We love to see it. So thank you, Party City. We love that you guys are giving us really good prices. I do love the vine, like the rooted vine look of his arms. That was actually one of my biggest like positives on the pumpkin creep from last year that they had. I liked the vine, like the root vine look of his ribs and his hands. So I'm glad to see Seasons do that. My only complaint is I wish they kept that with the ribs as well, with the whole chest cavity. I wish they also did like the weaved root and vine look with that as well. But at least they did it with the hands, so. I do also wish they would have given him a different pose. We've seen a bunch of other Rattles variants this year, and most of them at least, have had different positions. So I do wish Party City would have gone with a little bit of a different position with Embers as well, so he differentiated more so from Rattles. I think that also would have been really smart on their part to do that as well. But I also don't know if Seasons offered more than one position of him, or kind of what their whole deal on their end was. Because I do believe that this is a Seasons original piece and not a Party City original piece. So I think there might have been a little more I think there would have been more roadblocks there for versatility and, say, like, customization. Now, there is another Embers being sold. There's now 2 in the market at Tractor Supply Store, and I will be very honest and say that that one does not look nearly as good as Party City's. It is all orange. It does have more of a wash to it, but it just does not look nearly as nice as Party City's. It doesn't have that fun character to it. It doesn't have the really nice paint job that Party City's does. And it also is lacking the really cool rooted arms that I really like about this one. It's all skeletal, which I thought was kind of boring. And it's all orange, so it doesn't have the dark rooted parts that kind of set it apart. So I will have to give Party City's credit where credit's due. It is way cooler. I like it so much more. I hope someone in my town gets one, because I really want to see your Rattles in person. Or Embers. See, you keep wanting to call them Rattles. I want to see Embers in person. I also want to see Rattles too. Another little critique I have is just how they painted the face. So they did airbrushing along like the nose, the eyes, and the mouth, and I wish they did that inside as well to really help those colors pop even more. I think it does look a little awkward that it's just an outlining and not along the inside as well. That is another thing I noticed with this, and I think it just looks a little bit off, but I think that is something you could do at home. It's a pretty simple DIY, but I always say this is kind of my motto. You shouldn't have to do it at home. It should have been done right the first time. So I'm going to have to dock a little bit on that as well. I wish that they would have done a little more with that as well. I do also wish that the body itself had more of a natural color instead of just like a gray. Though, I won't be too horribly picky on that, considering that, you know, the alternative is just plain orange. But had I designed this or had I bought this, I would have at least given it a brown dry brush or green dry brush, something a little more classic pumpkin that you would typically see, you know, on the market. I think that also would have helped it pop a little more and give just a little more to look at. And again, it would have looked so much cooler if the actual torso piece looked like it was weaved out of roots to create that rib cage skeletal appearance like his arms have, because I think that contrast is just a little too noticeable, at least for me. But of course, I am hypercritical about this, like these things, and I do look very closely at stuff like this, and I'm assuming normal people really don't care. So, you know, that's just me being really nitpicky. Overall, like I've said many times, I do like Embers. I think Embers was a very well done prop in general. I definitely understand why it has its fans. I think it's really cute. I think it's really fun. I think Party City was super smart for picking this up and picking this up the way it was, instead of per se like Tractor Supplies, which I will, you know, compare the two, because, you know, Tractor Supplies, you know, is basically Embers but without the fun personality that Party City gave theirs. So that's really all of my thoughts on Embers. I like it again. I think it's really cool. I do also want to mention that Embers is pickup only and is sold in select stores. This will only be available in Halloween City locations, I believe. I think it's going in all Halloween cities, I'm pretty sure. If not select Halloween cities. I know mine had him and he sold out just quick. Not surprised. Rattles did last year. I think Rattles already sold out again. This is kind of like the new 12-foot Skelly. So, there's some FOMO with this guy. Get him while you can. He's so cute. So, I don't really have a demo for this guy. So we're going to move on to our next segment. And now we are on to our final segment of Triple Terror, where we will be talking about Art the Clown by Seasonal Visions and Crazy Create, formerly known as Grand Talent. This is their collaborative piece. They've been known to do this a few times. They did it with the teddy bear, the pale girl, and then they did some stuff last year as well. So not the first time we've seen them work together. So Art the Clown is $250, which is not a terrible price considering that Spirit's version was originally $280 and is now just $50 less because they are obviously competing with Party City. Now, I will say right out the gate, I do have issues with this one. I did kind of brush up on them on my last video where I talked about Spirits, but I really want to properly address them here. And I want to start with them combining multiple scenes from two different movies. I get that they continue off of each other. However, I don't love that they did that. Still, I think it's a little weird. I don't like that they combined the hacksaw scene from the first movie with the party store scene with the second movie. If you are unfamiliar with this series, let me give you a quick rundown. In the first movie, Art the Clown saws someone in half, and in the second movie, Art the Clown is in a party store. He wears a pair of sunflower sunglasses, and he has a horn, and he is basically toying with our protagonist and, just doing general clown shenanigans. So, general just tomfoolery. So they combined both of those scenes into one, and I don't really like that. What I would have actually done is I would have stuck with the first movie on this one, and I would have kept the hacksaw and given him his trash bag, because that was pretty iconic from the first movie. Basically, I would have done what Techie did with their tabletop version. I think it would further differentiate this one from Spirits. Granted, there was probably no way that either company knew that they were going to do it. So I think it would have been just a smarter choice because I feel like this was a little more predictable. And I do feel like the first movie one is still pretty beloved and is still a little more recognizable. I will say, though, that they had a pretty good attention to detail with some parts, like the hacksaw having Phillips screws in the handle and it having kind of a rusty, grungy texturing to it, which does perfectly capture that grindhouse, just grungy, dirty appearance that the Terrifier series is known for. So absolutely, will give credit for that. But what I will dock points for, and this is an SVI thing mainly, is they didn't do the nice chrome finish on the horn or really on the hacksaw's blade. I guess that's not always chrome on the blade, so I guess it's the horn mainly. They just did like a silver paint job. And that bothers me because you see Spirits, a direct competitor that did this really nice chrome finish, and it looks so much nicer. Another thing that really does bug me are the facial proportions of SVI's art compared to just how art looks. I feel like the face is a lot wider than he's supposed to be. Mainly the mouth area. His mouth looks really wide. It's like if you take a blow dryer and you blow it in your face. That's kind of what it looks like. His grin isn't that wide. And also his teeth are always clenched together. They're never separated like this. So it does bug me a little bit. I also do not like what they did with the sunglasses. They have them basically attached with an elastic band to help support them. If you guys know anything about elastic bands, you know that they do wear down pretty quickly. It does not take a lot of time and a lot of force to wear down the elasticity of an elastic band like that. So I don't see that having a lot of longevity, especially if you're taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, putting it on, taking it off, putting it on. It's going to last you 3-4 years. That's not really great. What I would have done as an alternative is I would have done what Spirit did with theirs, give them a fabric cowl, so instead you can tuck them in the fabric, have sculpted ears so they can rest on that like actual sunglasses, so you don't have to rely on an elastic band. I do also feel like it does cheapen him a little more because it is really visible. You can't really hide that as well as you might think. I will give credit for the amount of movement this has. This thing has so much movement. His head rotates, his arm with the hacksaw moves up and down. He's got waist movement. And the audio is pretty solid as well. I do like that he features the really dope score from Terrifier. He has the hacksaw audio and a girl screaming. And then he does have horn honking audio. I don't like this one because it's SVI stock audio. I've heard on a few different props, so I wish they would have done something a little different on that because it just did kind of ruin that for me a little bit. But overall, I think it is fairly nice. I like that he has the bloody print on his costuming. I think SVA and Party City were kind of in agreement that Art is a bloodier character. This character is a brutal killer. I mean, he kills people in probably some of the most imaginative and twisted ways possible. If you have not seen Terrifier, I'm telling you that it is a bloody series. Art the Clown does not hold back. Especially in the second movie, he is just insanely brutal. So that should give you a really good idea of just how gnarly this character is. So I am pretty happy that they made him bloody, but I do also understand the stance that some people don't like him being bloody, but I like him bloody. I like my gore. I see him as a brutal, just murderous, rampaging killer. So the stance is pretty standard from what you would get from SVI. I will say, one thing I did notice, the shoes look really high quality. They do not look like the cheap blister mold material, and that might just be how they painted them. I really got to see that in person to really make a good decision on that. But they do look pretty decent, like blow mold. So I'm curious if they actually did do a blow mold material on it, or if it is blister mold and they just painted it a little nicer. But it is the generic SVI shoe mold, which, again, come on, SVI. You can do a little better than that. But yeah, overall, not terrible. It's not a bad competitor for Spirits. This was one of the first animatronics we saw from Party City, and I was really hyped for it, and I'm still really proud of Party City because their license decor has been a step up from years prior. I mean, back in the day, we had the Party Time Michael Myers that was just a green pancake, and the hellishly deformed Creepshow Creep, which was really close to being good, but SVI fumbled that one pretty hard too. So, we've had some really nice license decor, the Techie Michael, which does look really nice. This does look pretty decent for what it is, though again, does have some inconsistencies. The little pale girl also looks pretty decent as well. I will say, if I could give Party City any bit of advice as not only a consumer, but as just someone who really understands these companies and looks at them really closely. If you want a company that's going to give you a really nice looking licensed item, you really should turn to Techie, because Techie does some really nice licensed items. I mean, they did those really nice tabletops for you. Leatherface was a really nice looking piece last year. I would have stuck with Techie, because I will tell you, a Techie Art the Clown would have looked phenomenal. Trust and believe. They would have looked so good. But yeah, still, I think it's pretty decent. The paint job's pretty nice. The sculpt quality is pretty good, especially for SVI. Like, their sculpt quality is getting a lot nicer. So, I'm happy that, Party City is really amping up their lineups. This is really good, especially for Party City. I want to see them improve more. I'm excited for next year's lineup already, and I really want to see what they bring out. So let's go ahead and play his demo. And again, thank you to Party City for providing such amazing videos. Like when you guys did that whole showcase, because it really does show how nice some of these guys look. But yeah, this has been Logan Kaler, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Triple Terror.